Let's see if we're working. All right, it looks like we're working to me. So, what do we got today? We got some hobby debt. That's what we're gonna work on. Also, yes, I'm wearing a hoodie in Hawaii. It's really fucking cold, and my skin hurts on the Hawaii, and the hoodie feels really good. So, fun times, right? Benefits of like having zero social energies. So, hoodie it is today. So yeah, we're gonna hobby debt, and we're gonna work on the rest of my blueberry ghosts. So what do I mean when I say hobby debt? Lots of times when you paint a whole army or a whole bunch of things, like a big force, you wind up with like a couple guys that you never quite finish, right? Or that like for whatever reason they missed one of the steps and you just never went back and finished them up. They're just kind of like lingering around a couple models. So I have some of that to do today. So what I have, I've got this guy that I'm going to repaint. He looks pretty cool as is, but I want him to match the rest of my ghosts. I've got him. He was a test paint model. So he was one that I was trying out a paint scheme on. So I've got him. I've got this guy that I already started repainting. And then I've got a couple of these like greatsword guys who, for whatever reason, I have a third one. Hold on. For whatever reason, they missed some of the steps, and I don't know where these models were, but they totally missed like the painting. Because yesterday I was having a really hard time keeping track of time, so I sat down and I just started working, and I cranked out basically all of the other blueberry ghosts I have, up to the stage where they get washes, right? Which means they're almost done. They're just waiting for pretty much the last steps, right? Including a bunch of really fun guys like him, stuff like that. This big headsman is a really cool model. He's got the big ass sword, right? That's a really fun one. So I cranked through all these guys. For whatever reason, these guys had totally missed the boat. They even didn't have anything on their bases. See, like all these guys, they all have like candles and little bits and stuff on their bases. These guys didn't have anything on their bases. So they missed that step too. To be honest, I don't know where the rest of my candles went. So these guys are just going to not have candles. It'll just be like 3 models out of like the 100 that don't have candles, which is fine. But in the end, they should look like big boat guy here. Big boat guy is my favorite ghosty model. I did not think I would like big boat guy as much as I do, but he's really fucking cool. So in the end, they'll look like big boat guy. But yeah, figured we would try to knock some of them out. I'll put big boat guy over there. Alright. So first step for my blueberry ghost is Abyssal Turquoise, which is like a really, really, really dark like turquoise. I love this color. It is a fantastic. If you just need a dark blue, it's like amazing dark blue. So yeah, we just got to hit them all over with this, and then while they're drying, we'll do some of the more intricate work on the ones that were painting test models. But yeah, we'll just slap this on for now. But yeah, it's super good to like just take a little bit of time and just knock out some of this hobby debt, because like everyone has this. Anyone that works on any kind of painting or hobby or anything, it doesn't have to be Warhammer like these guys are, right? Like everyone that does any miniature painting always has that like one unit, you know, where they missed one of the grots or, you know, something like that. And they just never needed it, so they've never gone back and finished it, kind of thing, right? Well, since I don't really play Age of Sigmar, I don't really need these models, right? They're just kind of... I got them with the intent of playing Age of Sigmar, but I just really don't want to play Age of Sigmar. But I don't really need them for anything, right? So I don't have that kind of motivation. So, you know, these couple minis will just sit unpainted forever. Basically until I forget how to paint this color scheme. To be honest. So, I would like to, you know, sort of get them caught up, I guess. That's kind of the goal. Step one for that is just to base coat them in this blue. Now, if I miss any spots, that's okay. I do want a pretty consistent base coat here, but if I miss something tiny, it's not the end of the world. All right. Yeah. I particularly like to do hobby debt right before the new year, right? Because, you know, so I'm expecting to have lots of new projects, you know. So it's a particularly good time to do this kind of like catching up, I guess. Just making sure we can kind of zero out that ledger before we start something new. You really don't want to be like super excited for new models and then like, man, but I just have 3 more ghosts to paint. Just never done it, you know? You don't want that like dragging you down while you're working on your new cool new stuff. So, yeah, we will try to knock that out. Alright. Looks like a good base coat to me. So I think this guy did all the hard to hit spots already with a small brush last night before I was just like, my eyes hurt, I need to go to bed. So we will knock out some of the larger areas on him too while we're at it. He's got fucking beard hair stuck on him. Go away, beard hair. That happens a lot. Plus, my dog sheds like constantly, so. Shiba Inus are very cute, but they are shedding monstrosities. Like, legitimately, I think I could just walk around the living room and pick up enough hair to assemble a new dog. Alright, so that's going to be his basis. He's still going to need some base coat, this guy's, but we'll break out the small brush to do that. So, knock out some of the big areas on this guy too while we're at it, and then we'll, when we get into the big closer stuff, we'll switch to the small brush. I think that's a good call. Yeah, my plan originally for these guys was to have them be like blood ghosts to go with my vampires. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have these cool bloody ghosts. I was like, this is gonna be really neat, right? Like, I'm gonna have vampires, and then we're gonna have a bunch of blood ghosts. That's gonna be badass. But then once I started painting it, I was like, man, all right, something's just missing with the red, right? Like, just not enough, right? Something's missing. So I started trying to experiment with other colors and stuff, and I could not get them to not look like, I don't even want to say, but they didn't look good. I'll put it that way. That'll be the polite way of saying it. They did not look good, and I was not happy with how they looked. So, I was like, all right, we're going to try try a different approach, right? So I started messing around with the different kind of blues, because I had used blue for the candles on the base, and I was like, oh, it'd be kind of neat if they kind of like tied in with the candles, maybe. That might be kind of cool. And then they'd be like candle ghosts, you know, like living gloom brought to life kind of thing. Thought that might be kind of cool. So that's what I ended up going with, because the red just did not work out. But that happens, you know what I mean? Like, that happens. Like, sometimes you're working on a project and like what you thought was a really good idea isn't, you know, and you can't really see it until you you know, actually like have a couple of them finished, and then you're like, oh man, red was not the right answer, kind of thing, you know. Also, these ghost models are very, very finicky. Just like the tiniest little supports. This guy, to actually hold him up, I actually bent one of his like ghosty wisps back on itself down here. See, like this piece here, how it crosses under the plastic there to hold itself in place. I did that so he had more than just the tiny little connection from the axe, so that he had more like body to him, because he was really, really wispy, and I was like, fuck, you're gonna break, dude. So yeah, don't be afraid to bend them around if you can, to get the to get a good result out of them. All right. Oh. Yeah, the ghosts are really cool models, just because they're like very different, you know what I mean? Like, I'm usually not a fan of like horror movie ghosts. I usually prefer like some kind of monster like thing, like a werewolf or something, but like these ghosts are cool because they have a lot of like body to them. I know I was just saying how wispy they are, but like there's a lot of like style to the, you know, the bits blowing around in the wind, and you know, like the ethereal like goo that they are, right? Like there's a lot of like visual bits to that. I think it's neat. It's got a lot of like personality and style, I guess, and I dig that. So yeah, I'm just trying to knock out some of the big areas, and then we'll switch to the smaller brush with this guy. Going back and doing these test models is always annoying, because like, especially when they're like a finished color scheme, and you're like, you know what, that's not terrible, but I don't really, you know, but I really should repaint it, you know. It's very hard to find the motivation to go back and do these kind of test models. Or if you update one of your color schemes, it's really obnoxious, like to be like, fuck, I have to go back and repaint this model. My Tyranids are that way. I updated my Tyranid color scheme, and I absolutely love it now. I think it's like one of the best color schemes I've ever done. But I have all my other Tyranid models that are all like 1 or 2 steps behind where the new color scheme is, and it's just like, man, I really don't feel like going back and doing those last couple of steps, you know. But they would look amazing if I did, so it's like, fuck. All right. he needs the tiny brush. So we'll go ahead and we'll toss him off to the side for now. So we can just keep big brushing our way down. So blueberry ghosts are actually very easy. They're basically one base coat and then dry brushing, and then you paint the details in, like the weapons and stuff like that, and that's it. Right? That's really all the blueberry ghosts take. Like, we should hopefully be able to get through the whole blueberry ghost process today on these models, to be honest. I'm really not feeling the best, so still pretty low energy. So we might not get all the way through it, but we should. You know. So as long as my existence holds together, we'll get through all of our hobby debt today and get these guys all up to the stage of getting ready for washes, and I can finish up all my ghosts. Yeah, it's kind of fun, like when you get close to the end of a project, right? And you're like, man, I am so close to being done with all of my ghosts. Part of it's kind of sad, right? Because, you know, painting that project or whatever was neat. But, like, it's also kind of exciting to be like, man, I'm almost finished with this. That's really cool. You know, a little bit of one, a little bit of the other. And it's especially fun to like get an army to this stage, because then it's just like if you pick up one or two models to add to it, it's not like a huge lift. You know what I mean? It's not like you're painting the entire thing from scratch kind of deal. I tend to do that. I tend to just constantly do new armies, right? So I tend to like either be shifting and playing new games and make stuff for new games. So it's like, okay, you know, I need new enemies and new factions and everything for this new game that just came out, right? Or I tend to just be like, okay, well, you know what? I did some ghosts. Now I'm going to do an entire orc army. You know what I mean? Things like that. I tend to do that a lot. It does mean that, like, constantly there's a pretty big lift in just models that need to get done, right? And that can be a little stressful, you know? Like, the need to, you know, you need 700 infantry or whatever, right? Like, that can be a pretty daunting lift, you know? To be super honest, this kind of hobbying is one of the few things that, like, really I can kind of, like, relax while I'm doing. It's very hard to relax, so the hobby gives me a nice thing to do, you know, because I feel like I'm being productive, right? So I can kind of turn off that I must always be doing something kind of like part of my brain. I can like satisfy that while also doing something that's like genuinely fun, not just like constantly doing work or whatever, right? Like at one point I had 3 jobs, just because not being able to relax, like, you know, always feeling like I needed to have something done, you know. And 2 of my jobs condensed into 1. And then when I gave up my second job when I came to Hawaii, that was a really fucking hard day for me, man. Making that, like, conscious choice. But, like, it's very nice to have something that kind of gives me that same feeling of, you know, like, I need to accomplish this, I need to do this, But that I can kind of relax more during, right, and enjoy, right? Like having to paint models doesn't keep me up at night, right? Like the way like having 3 jobs used to, But that's interesting stuff. I don't know. I think there's a lot of good in this hobby, both for people to learn like design and colors and stuff like that, and presentation, right? Like, but also just has a relaxation thing. It's quite fun. And if you get into historicals, you start getting like all of this, kind of like all this like historical knowledge, like, oh, what were tanks like in World War One and stuff like that, You start like being interested in kind of engaging in that sort of thing. I will say I don't ever see myself doing like medieval historics, but then again, I never saw myself doing World War II stuff. But I've like super enjoyed the World War II stuff. It's been very good, really like interesting, and it's neat too because learning that stuff's important. Because the minute you forget about all the bad that's happened in the world, like, that's when it repeats itself, Sometimes it repeats itself either way because other people forget, but it's still interesting. Alright, let's break out the small brush and we'll finish up these base coats on these 5 models. And then we can start getting to some of the dry brushing. You guys are probably getting a little bit of beard cam. I'm sorry if you are. Apologize if there's beard cam. I'm just trying to knock out the little bits. I'm trying not to have to repaint all these guys as weapons. I'm sure I'm going to have to touch it up, but I'm trying to not have to repaint it if I can avoid it. Same thing with the bases, because I was just going to reprime these guys, but I was like, you know what, I really don't want to have to paint the fucking bases again. Painting the bases isn't bad per se, but it's also like not my favorite thing to do. Also because I'm really running out of this fucking paint. The base, all these bases are done in a color called Somber Gray, and I'm really running out of it. I need to go and pick more up. It's a Vallejo color, but so one of the local stores will carry it, which is nice, but yeah, you got to remember and everything, right? And that can be a real pain. Oh, yeah. Definitely a fun hobby. This year I've really gotten into the multi-base. It's weird, right? Like this year was like my big, I don't know, like it feels like the like I'm getting older part of the hobby kind of really hit me this year, which is kind of weird, but it really feels like it did this year. So this year not only did I get into rank and flank games, 2 different ones, okay, because I was playing Conquest with my friend Chris, and then he stopped playing that, which sucks, but it is what it is. I was playing Conquest with my friend Chris, and then I started to get into Mantic stuff, which is rank and flank too, right? Like Kings of War and all that. I started to work on like multi-based armies. Like, holy shit! Let me tell you, multi-based armies are cool, right? They're really cool because they're basically like one miniature, but it looks like a bunch of guys. But really, like rules-wise and energy-wise, it's one miniature. And that's super cool. From a person that like has trouble having the energy to play games, like real talk, I'm probably gonna need a fucking nap after the stream today. But as a person that has that trouble, right, like a multi-base is cool because it's basically like a faster, large-scale game. Because instead of that unit of 20 rat men being one base, it's two base, or being like 20 bases, it's two bases, and you can just kind of like slide it around, but it still looks like a full army. It's really neat. It's kind of why I'm kind of interested in like the smaller scale kind of 15 mil stuff, right? Why I would be super into Legions Imperialis if it hadn't been Horus Heresy. I mean, it's still neat, don't get me wrong, but like if it had been fucking epic, it would probably like, yeah, it would be my shit. Have like a 15 millimeter orc army. Oh, it'd be so for fucking like 15 millimeter Tyranid army, where you use the existing Tyranid models as like their big war machines. That would be glorious. You could do the same thing with orcs, right? Imagine a Killican technically becoming a like the size of a Warhound Titan, right? How cool would that be? Alright, you just use your Death Dread as a fucking warlord, right? Or an Imperator. Like, that would be dope. But not the way it went. So, but yeah, some Flames of War stuff, you know, get into that and get into rank and flank. Like, historical and rank and flank are like traditionally like the realm of like the quote unquote like older gamer, right? Like there's that running joke that you don't like historicals until you get old. But man, I really feel that this year, I tell you what. You know, and technically I'm not playing like real historics. You know, I'm playing like alternate history historics because I think that's cooler because then you got all the sci-fi stuff, you know, and then like you can really play up like the caricature, right? Like my Nazi army has like werewolves and vampires and zombies in it, right? Like, you know, it's not like a situation where like, you know, this was a real character that killed somebody's grandpa, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like there's a little bit of like detachment there that's kind of nice, you know? You know, just like a little bit removed from like the real atrocities that like alternate history, like sweet spot of like this is fantasy but with all the historical trappings. Like the recent Godzilla film is actually a really good example of alternate history. Right? Because like Godzilla didn't destroy Ginza, right? Like, but you know, you can tell a really cool story around, you know, the history of that, right? But with the sci-fi stuff, right? Like with Godzilla becoming this, embodiment of PTSD and survivor's guilt, but it's really neat because you have all these historical trappings, right? Like you have all the outfits and the feelings and the characters and the grief, and you kind of have that all already baked in, and it's pretty neat. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, Godzilla -1 is fucking sweet. Good movie. Really good movie. Alright. That's enough about me. Oh. Whining about whatever I'm whining about. I don't even know. Alright. There's all 5 of our models. Base coated our blue. Now we're going to get into some more steps. This is turquoise from Game Color. This is like our main color. And we're not actually going to like normally paint this on. What we're going to do is we're going to dry brush this on. And a couple of these models, we have to be a little careful with this. Because they are, already holding weapons and stuff that are done. I'm going to try to keep that way. And try not to get too much of this on those. So, just got to be a little bit aware of it. Alright, so I got a big kind of dry brush here. If you're doing the makeup brushes, this great time for that. To be honest, I just haven't been able to find nice makeup brushes that are cheap for painting. Should probably hit up Amazon. And I got this GW dry brush as part of the Imperium magazine set. And I've just really liked it. It's a really nice, just dense brush, to be honest. Yeah, it's been really nice. Yeah, just gonna go around and do a dry brush. It's a pretty heavy dry brush, to be honest. You would probably call this more like over brushing than dry brushing. My intent isn't just to get out on the raised areas, it's also to like kind of just coat everything without like doing a full coat. Alright, so if we miss spots like with the base coat, since they're all base coated black, not the end of the world, but if we can choose not to, we will choose not to. And then that's kind of the end goal, kind of like the spotty, ghosty look, like that. That's where we want to wind up at the end. So be a little bit rougher with these guys because they don't have painted weapons yet. Now, I will say I'm usually a really big advocate for order of operations and not doing things where, like, if you mess up, you really have to do a lot of work to clean up. But in this, it's like the exact opposite. Like all these chains and everything, if I screw these up, I need to do like basically the last 2 steps again. So what I've just been doing is focusing really hard on not screwing up when I paint these. So like this first couple steps are like really kind of chill, and then painting the weapons and stuff is like, oh, gotta focus up, But thankfully they don't have that much kind of weapon detail and stuff, so like it's not that bad. Alright, it's not like the whole miniature is just like crazy bits of gear and stuff. So another one down, 2 more to go. Ugh. Yeah, you can see it's much more, I guess, like an overbrush than anything else. You can see it'll grab some of the edges, it'll grab some of the internals. It leaves streaky parts some places. But, I mean, they're ghosty boys, so that's kind of exactly what we want. Oh, I'm sorry. We've been getting blurry because of my hand during the dry brushing. Apologies if that's the case. Or is it because of my beard? Maybe it's because of a beard. Let's see. Let's try that. Sorry. Did not intend that to be the case. Yeah. So that's kind of the end result, what we're looking for. Just take a look around, see if there's anything else we want to hit with it. But pretty happy with that. Alright, now this guy's going to take a little bit of special care, because he does have more details, but he's like a kind of like a character to my understanding. Get some more paint. This like big headsman. I don't know why they're so obsessed with executioners in the Ghost range, because this is like the third headsman model they've done. But this like big headsman is the is, to my understanding, like a character. I think he'd make an awesome like boss mini in like Frostgrave or Rangers of Shadowdeep. I think he would be super cool, so I really like this guy. He came from one of the old starter boxes, the like first edition starter boxes, or no, second edition, maybe second edition AOS starter boxes. Yeah, it's really weird. GW makes these kind of like models like this, and then they don't really make them easy to get after the starter boxes are gone, so it's a little FOMO-y, to be honest. Because like their starter boxes come out, people buy multiple of the starter boxes so that they can get models like this. Right, but they only need like one, right? And they want all the other dudes out of the starter box. So they'll wind up with a ton of these kind of guys. So these guys will sell for really cheap while the starter boxes are popular. But they'll be really fucking hard to get from actual GW after the starter box like is done selling. Alright, we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch to Little Brush. And I'm going to do some like pseudo dry brushing in some of these areas here. Just gonna kind of lightly hit some of these spots, you know, because I want maybe a little bit more blue in there than intended, than I could get with the dry brush, because the dry brush is so much bigger. Stuff like that. Things like on the hands that are holding the weapon. Our big one here. So just kind of lightly hitting it with the brush. Lightly hitting it with the brush in some areas. Okay. Yeah. All right. Pretty good to me. So that's the turquoise on all of them. Something else I've been doing in these models is I've been hitting their like faces with another dry brush, just to kind of pull out some of the character. You can see it. Ooh, you can see it really well in this guy, right? a like lighter blue kind of green like on his face kind of area and like his arms there. I think it looks neat, so we'll keep that going. Hold on. This paint always like, I don't know why, it always has paint dry in the fucking tip. It's really weird. None of my other scale colors do this one, but this one always does. Alright, so we're just going to hit these really light, and then we'll start painting in details, and these guys will almost be done. Which is pretty darn cool. Going from basically primered to... And see, this guy's mask, we're going to repaint this. Right, but I can get the area sort of around the mask there. I think that'll be fine. All right. There we go. And then last but not least, I got the boss guy, and we'll just lightly hit his face like that. The lighter color. We'll hit the other faces too. It'll help bring them out a little bit. There we go. Well, the boss guy here is actually done because his weapons are all done. So minus the fact to not do it, I think it looks real. We'll do their base.
These three, but it all. Alright, this brush is totally dead. Give me a sec. I gotta hit it with some water. Slightly better. I don't really want to use a good brush on these bases because the bases have a ton of texture on them, and painting over that is like a death sentence for a good brush. So. Guy's rim. There's his base is done. Yeah, I do really like the not black rim on these. I think they look really nice. It's funny because usually I'm like a big supporter of always having black rims. But I don't know why. I think maybe because the bases are kind of like one mono color. Really, there's not a lot of like dry brushing or anything to stand out.
Still pretty rough, to be honest. So I'm kind of really leading in there. Maybe that's why. The shotgun mic should pick that. Let me know if it clears up. Alright, there we go. Ghosty, ghosty, ghosties. So these guys, they have like these cool kind of like meat hook chain things. Really neat looking. It's kind of a shame their weapons aren't similar. If they had like, I don't know, like big like maces or flails with chains on them, it would be kind of neat. They have these great swords, which are nice, but they aren't as cool as if they had like meat chains. Like meat hook chain kind of flail things. Right. There's actually a Warcry warband, the Hounds of Karnak, and their main weapons are like meat hook chains, and they're really neat. Yeah, you can see how easy their weapons are to do. Just touching that up. Besides that, he's good. Alright. But yeah, just going through, knocking them out. Finish up my bits of hobby debt. You know. Going to probably try to just chill a little after this. I beat nobody really cares about this when I'm painting, but you know what? It's Lego talk time, so I'm just going to talk about stuff that I think is interesting. I beat Terraria last night. That was kind of cool. Never actually beaten it as a game before. I'm like, yeah, it's just funny. When I played it, it was like not. It was like far from being the 1.0. I think like they had just added Golem as a boss, I think. So I remember the world I was on like didn't have Golem in it because it like he had not been added soon enough, so I had to make a new world, and I just never finished it. So yeah, I guess this is like the first time I've really played it since the 1.0 came out, and that was really fun. It's a cool. Terraria to me has always been like way more combat focused than like Minecraft. You know, because I really feel like there's like a combat kind of progression that happens in that game that doesn't happen in Minecraft. With like kind of like stepped bosses and stuff, which is kind of neat. I always felt like Terraria is kind of like less building kind of focused, more like exploration and combat focused, I guess, than Minecraft. You really have to explore your world in Terraria. In Minecraft, you really don't. Like you explore for like a couple of specific things. And like you don't even need to get those. It's just like really what do you want to do kind of thing. You know, what do you actually want out of it? And that's kind of interesting. So I think very often it's very easy for players, and this goes for every single game, to ask themselves, you know, what am I getting out of this? What am I, you know, what is my return on investment from something? I had a friend back in the mainland. Who would trying to find the right word. I guess he would ponder if anything you actually do in a video game matters. Because it's like his proposition was that, you know, it's something you're doing for enjoyment, and outside that specific realm, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you beat the boss or something like that. Like, you know, nobody really cares. I think that's kind of like a weirdly negative view on it. Because, like, you know, everybody kind of like lives their life, and we all have our experiences. So, like, discounting the journey and the experience for the like lack of like tangible payoff at the end is kind of fucked up, right? Like, I played World of Warcraft for like 10 years, and I don't play World of Warcraft anymore, so technically I wasted those 10 years, right, according to this guy's train of thought. And I think that's a pretty fucked up way to think about it, right? Because, like, life's sort of about, like, what you experience it during it, right? Because really, like, technically there's no way to, like, really win or lose, you know? Like, just because you're not, like, a mega trillionaire doesn't mean you're a loser, you know what I mean? Doesn't mean that someone else is winning more than you, like, right? It's all about the experiences you get to have. And that technically means you never are wasting time. I just thought it was interesting. Like the idea that, I don't know, it was kind of meaningless, right? But I think that's wrong. I think that discounts the, oh, I forgot to do their masks. Fuck. I think that discounts the personal experience of things like playing video games or painting miniatures, right? But at the same time, I do think it is a very easy opinion to have when you don't get, like, some kind of obvious tangible reward out of something. It's a very easy opinion to have, to be like, that's a waste of time. But I think that's incorrect. But yeah, so I gotta do their masks, and these guys are all caught up, to be honest. These guys are entirely caught up, and then this whole group just needs washes, and yeah, all my blueberry ghosts will be done. They need to wait a little bit before I do washes on them, though. But yeah, that's 5 blueberry ghosts. That's all my hobby debt completed. Yeah. Ooh. But yeah, pretty darn cool. So that's going to be, once I do washes, that's all my ghosts done, which is really exciting to, like, finish that project out. That's really, really cool. Oh, that's big excite. Well, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to call it there, because I am running out of energy for sure. But these guys will sit for a little bit, and then I'll do washes. The washes that I'm going to do on them, they're going to get Agrex Earthshade on all of their weapons and anything we did in metal. And then they're going to get, I'm looking for the bottle. It's a GW Orange Wash. Fugan Orange. They're going to get Fugan Orange on all of the yellow candle bits. These guys didn't have any, but like these guys do. So they're going to get Fugan Orange and all that, and that should turn this candle into that. Maybe that's how I painted that. We're going to figure out how I painted this, and we're going to do that. I think it's Fugan Orange over Filthy Brown, or Avalanche Sunset. I think is what that is, but I'm not 100% sure. That might actually be a different color. We'll figure that out. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you guys for watching. So tired. Have a good one, and keep on keeping on.